What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Joey Miller. So I'm going to give my final mock draft, my mock draft 3.0, before the draft begins. With the first overall pick, I have Bryce Young out of Alabama. Consensus pick, as I said, not really much surprise. With the second overall pick, the Houston Texans, I have them taking C.J. Stroud, a quarterback out of Ohio State. The Texans have to take a quarterback here. I think if you want to build to the future, even though I like Davis Mills, I don't think he's the answer for the future. You have to take C.J. Stroud. I think he's the best quarterback of the Big Four in this year's draft. I think if you also look at it, the Texans have 5 picks in the top 75 of this year's draft, 2 in the top 12 picks, 5 in the top 75. They have 4 picks in the top 3 rounds of next year's draft. So that's 9 picks right there in the top 3 rounds of this draft in next year's draft. So they have a lot of draft capital. I think in order to build a future, you have to get a quarterback. I think they take Stroud here with the second overall pick. With the third overall pick, I have the Arizona Cardinals staying put and taking Will Anderson, the best player in the draft on defense, an edge rusher out of Alabama. With the fourth overall pick, I have the Indianapolis Colts taking a quarterback and Will Levis out of Kentucky. With the fifth overall pick, I have the Seahawks taking Jalen Carter. I've stayed put with that just about every mock draft. With the sixth overall pick, I have the Detroit Lions taking Devin Witherspoon, a cornerback out of Illinois. With the seventh overall pick, I have the Raiders taking a cornerback and Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. With the eighth overall pick, I have the Tennessee Titans trading up with the Atlanta Falcons. I have the Falcons trading the 8th overall pick to Tennessee for the 11th overall pick and a second-round pick in 2024, So a second-round pick in 2024 and the 11th overall pick in this year's draft. So to move up 8 spots, they're giving up the 11th pick and a second round of next year's draft. And they are taking a quarterback in Anthony Richardson out of Florida with the 8th overall pick. So Tennessee gets their quarterback for the future. I heard they're not very high on Malik Willis. They've lost hope with him. And Ryan Tannehill obviously isn't their answer for the future. He's going to be gone very soon, I'm sure. Could even be potentially traded today. So I have Richardson going 8th overall. With the 9th overall pick, I have the Chicago Bears taking Tyree Wilson, an edge rusher out of Texas Tech. With the 10th overall pick, I have Bijan Robinson out of Texas going to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a tough pick as a Giants fan, seeing Bijan Robinson be on the Eagles, but he's a great player, very talented, and the Eagles are good on both sides of the ball. They can afford taking running back with the 10th overall selection, and Bijan is a top 3 talent in the class in my eyes. With the 11th overall pick, I have the Atlanta Falcons, who just traded down in this mock draft, taking Paris Johnson Jr., an offensive tackle at Ohio State, to protect their quarterback, whether it may be Taylor Heinicke or Desmond Ridder. I have them protecting either one of those guys with Paris Johnson Jr., their bookend tackle for the future. With the 12th overall pick, I have the Houston Texans taking Jackson Smith and Jigba, a wide receiver at Ohio State. They will be using him alongside C.J. Stroud in this mock draft. You have a great quarterback wide receiver duo to build for the future if this were to be how things pan out. With the 13th overall pick, I have the Green Bay Packers taking edge rusher and Myles Murphy out of Clemson. Very good player, and obviously Green Bay needs help on the defensive line. With the 14th overall pick, I have the New England Patriots taking Broderick Jones out of Georgia. A good tackle. The Patriots need help on that offensive line. I know they could potentially trade Mac Jones. People were talking about that about a week or two ago. I think they roll with Mac Jones for one more year, and the best way to help out your quarterback is give them protection, give them a good offensive coordinator, give them some weapons. You have Bill O'Brien coming in from Alabama helping out Mac Jones. You give him a little bit more protection with Broderick Jones, and maybe get him a skilled player in the first 2 rounds of this year's draft. I think Mac could have a better year this coming season. With the 15th overall pick, the New York Jets taking Peter Skoronski, an offensive tackle out of Northwestern. I think this would be a great pick for the Jets, considering they need to protect Aaron Rodgers. With the 16th overall pick, I have the Washington Commanders taking a cornerback and Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. One of my favorite plays in this year's draft. He's going to be a great cornerback in the NFL. With the 17th overall pick, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking an offensive tackle and Donnell Wright out of Tennessee. They need help with that offensive line, whether they go cornerback or go offensive line. Both of them would fill big needs here for Pittsburgh. With the 18th overall pick, I have the Detroit Lions taking an edge rusher in Nolan Smith out of Georgia. Did miss some games at the end of last season with an injury, but was very productive when he was on the field, and also helped them out as like a defensive assistant from the sidelines. Obviously a good leader as well. I think he'd be good in that Detroit defensive line. And obviously you have a head coach that loves hard-nosed football, players that play hard, and Nolan Smith does play very hard when he's out there. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Kalijah Kancey, a defensive lineman out of Pittsburgh with the 19th overall pick. I think Kancey is a very underrated player. I think he's going to be very good in the NFL. Gets a lot of production at the defensive line in the run-stopping game and does force a lot of pressure. I think he'd be a great pick for Tampa Bay as they build for their future on defense. With the 20th overall pick, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee, a quarterback. I know they've been telling Geno Smith they could potentially take a quarterback in this year's draft. If Hooker falls to them to 20, I would not be surprised they take him with the 20th overall pick. Hooker is my favorite quarterback of the guys that could be potentially drafted in the first round. I think he's going to be the best one out of the guys that are drafted in the first round if he is drafted in the first. Out of Levis, Richardson, Stroud, and Young, and Hooker, I think Hooker could be the best of those 5 guys, at least in my eyes. He was always the one I said could be the best one. Just the injury obviously didn't help his draft stock. With the 21st overall pick, I have the Kansas City Chiefs trading up here, and I have them trading their 31st overall pick in this year's draft, their second-round pick in this year's draft, which is good enough to be the 63rd overall pick, and a 6th-round pick in this year's draft, which is the 217th pick, for the 21st pick from the LA Chargers. So the Chargers are trading the 21st pick, and the Kansas City Chiefs are trading the 31st pick, the 63rd pick, and the 217th pick in this year's draft, and they are trading up here to get wide receiver Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Very electric wide receiver, and I think if you look at it, they need help with the wide receiver position. Mecole Hardman's gone. Juju Smith-Schuster's gone. Tyreek Hill's now been gone for a season. They need another speedy receiver, and I think that would fill a big need for them with Zay Flowers if they were to get him at 21 here in a trade-up. Zay did work out with Patrick Mahomes this past week during a private visit with the Chiefs. I'm sure Zay would be a great fit alongside a guy like Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes makes every receiver look great, and if you add a guy like Zay Flowers, who has a lot of speed, has good hands, and can be great in the open field and make a lot of shifty moves, I think that'd be great on offense with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. So I have the Chiefs trading up here for the 21st pick. With the Baltimore Ravens taking Jordan Addison with the 22nd pick out of USC. I had the Chiefs trading up there at 21 to jump the Ravens. I think the Ravens do really like Zay Flowers. That's why I had the Chiefs trading up for the 21st pick there and stealing the 21st pick from the Chargers, just so they did not let the Ravens get Zay Flowers with the 22nd overall selection. At 22, I have Jordan Addison out of USC going to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens need help at the wide receiver position. I think they know that. Obviously, they signed Odell Beckham Jr. in the offseason now over the past week, and I think they know we need to help Lamar Jackson more with wide receivers. You're not going to get it done with Willie Snead and Sam Prochet. I think they know they need to help Lamar Jackson and give him a good wide receiver, and I think Jordan Addison would be great in that offense. You add Odell Beckham Jr. with Jordan Addison, Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, and then you also add in probably another receiver in the draft. I think that offense is going to be great, and I'm sure Lamar Jackson will be happy with Jordan Addison. With the 23rd overall pick, I have Deonte Banks out of Maryland going to the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, I do think, could potentially go with the wide receiver at this pick. They could also go with a quarterback maybe if one were to follow them at 23. But I think defense here in the secondary is a big need for them. They got torn apart in their pass defense last year. I think a great need for them is a cornerback. So Deonte Banks would fill a need for them there at 23. With the 24th overall pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State. Once again, would fill a need in the secondary here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. With the 25th overall pick, I have the New York Giants taking Quentin Johnston out of TCU. A bigger receiver, adds a lot of size to the Giants wide receiver room, even though I don't think the Giants really need a wide receiver in the first round. Johnston would definitely spread the field a little more, be great in the 50-50 balls, and give Daniel Jones a great red zone target. With the 26th overall pick, I have Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame going to the Dallas Cowboys. Would fill a need for the Cowboys at the tight end position. It would be great for them pass blocking wise and pass catching. Obviously, I do think that Dak Prescott could use another receiver, and I think if you look at it, they did lose Dalton Schultz in the offseason. You add a great tight end like Michael Mayer, it would be a great pickup for Dallas. With the 27th overall pick, I have the Buffalo Bills taking Osiris Torrance, an interior offensive lineman. He is a guard out of Florida. He would fill a need on that Buffalo Bills offensive line. I do think they could potentially go with a skill player here, maybe a wide receiver if they don't believe that Stephon Diggs will stay around much longer. I think Stephon Diggs could potentially be out after one more year in Buffalo if things were not to go well. Could be a hot take, but that's just how I feel. I know he's been upset with the way the last few seasons have gone. At the end of the season, obviously in the playoffs, they go into high expectations and just haven't been able to get to where they want to. They could go also with a running back here, whether it's Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson falls. They could trade up. We'll see what they do. I have them going with a guard here, though, at 27 overall. With the 28th overall pick, I have the Cincinnati Bengals taking a safety and Brian Branch out of Alabama. Once again, would fill a need for them in their secondary, and he's a great hitter, big playmaking safety, big hits, good tackler, and also brings a lot of speed to that defensive backfield. I think he'd be a good pick for Cincinnati, the 28th overall selection. They could go offensive line here as well. You have to protect Joe Burrow. I think that's obviously best for them, but I do think they lean towards a safety here. With the 29th overall pick, I have the New Orleans Saints going with best player available here, and I have them taking Lucas Van Ness, an edge rusher out of Iowa. That defensive line does need help there in New Orleans. The defense overall definitely could use some more additions, and Van Ness would be a great addition to that defensive line. gets a lot of pass rushing snaps, makes a lot of plays. Even though he never started a game at Iowa, he is a very versatile pass rusher and does consistently get in the backfield. I think he'd be a good addition for the New Orleans Saints if they were to get him at 29. With the 30th overall pick, I have the Philadelphia Eagles taking Brian Brzee, a defensive lineman out of Clemson. I just mentioned in the last episode I recorded just a minute ago in my mock 2.0, they need help on the defensive line, losing Javon Hargrove. I think Brian Brzee would fill that need. And with the 31st overall pick, the Chiefs originally owned this pick. That I had them trading up with the Los Angeles Chargers with the 21st pick. So the Chargers now have the 31st pick in this mock, in my mock draft 3.0. And I have them taking Dalton Kincaid, a tight end out of Utah, and that would fill a need for them at the tight end position and give Justin Herbert yet another weapon on that offense alongside Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, who could be potentially traded. Maybe the Chargers could go running back if that were to be the case, if they were to get rid of him on draft day. And also Keenan Allen is on that offense as well. We'll see what happens in this year's draft. Anyways, happy draft day to everybody out there. It's my favorite day of the year in the NFL season. I look forward to this Thursday every single year, so I'm psyched for this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll give you some recaps over the next few days of how each round went, who I think had the best draft, who I think had poor drafts, and I'll also give you a breakdown of some potential sleepers heading into day 2 and day 3. Anyways, thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it and hope you guys have a good one. Best of luck to all your teams in the NFL draft. Hopefully everybody gets the player they want, and I'm sure it's going to be an exciting weekend for each NFL team. Enjoy it. Hope you guys have a good one. Stay safe and stay well, and enjoy the first round of the NFL draft tonight, which is taking place in Kansas City on ESPN at 8 p.m. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it, and have a good one. Thank you.